जिंदगी प्यार का गीत है, इसे हर दिल को गाना पड़ेगा. Life is a song of love. Every heart must sing it. Have you heard this Indian song? If the Shawshank Redemption movie was to be summed up in one line, it would be this. That's enough introduction. Watch the full review and you will understand why I am saying this. Who doesn't know that this film is number 1 on IMDb Top 250 films? Every other Instagram reel related to classic films has something from this movie. I watched this film a long time ago when I was quite young. Back then I did not enjoy it at all because I was expecting some adventure like in Prison Break movies. But this one just had more talking and it was so slow. But now I am 28 years old and when I recently watched it again, my mind was blown. I mean, can a movie really be this amazing? It had suspense, adventure, emotions, deep philosophical insights which were very simple and relate to everyday life. I mean, it had everything. When the film started, it felt very slow and had the typical vibe of Hollywood crime movies. But the real game begins when the prison life starts. In the beginning, there is a scene where new prisoners arrive and the prison warden named Samuel Norton introduces them with prison rules. That's where I too was introduced to the prison. Although the full life inside the jail is shown later in the film, and what a beautiful, horrific portrayal it was. In that scene, the warden tells the prisoners, the first rule of this prison is no blasphemy, and the rest of the rules you will understand gradually. Up till that moment, I felt like the warden was a religious man who wanted to turn the prisoners into good, God-fearing people. I thought he would not torture them but just bring them into discipline. But right after that, things take a turn. When Norton asks any questions, one prisoner asks, when will we be fed? And then the security chief Hadley storms over in rage and yells, you eat when we say you eat, you piss when we say you piss. Then he strikes him hard in the stomach with his baton. Norton silently stands by. That's when I understood what this prison is really about. But what happens next in the film, I could not have imagined. Then begins prison life. All the new prisoners are in their cells getting ready to sleep. Among the old inmates, there is a tradition. They bet on who among the new prisoners will cry first on their first night. Every old prisoner picks a person. Among Andy Dufresne's batch, there is a chubby prisoner who is very soft-hearted. William Sadler, one of the old prisoners, tries to make this chubby guy cry. Eventually, he breaks down and starts screaming. The security head comes and tells him to stay quiet, but he keeps crying, begging to be let go, saying he can't stay here. Meanwhile, Sadler quietly says to himself, for God's sake, keep quiet. Two things become clear here. First, Sadler knows how badly the guard will beat him. And second, even prisoners have a heart. The guard beats him so badly he becomes unconscious. The next day during lunch, Sadler asks another prisoner how that chubby guy is doing because that prisoner had night duty in the infirmary. He says he's dead. Sadler falls silent for a while. Andy, sitting next to him, asks what was his name, and Sadler snaps, saying, why do you care about his name? He is dead. Here, Sadler's guilt and the prisoner's compassion become visible. I felt very moved seeing this. After that, Andy meets a prisoner named Red, played by Morgan Freeman. What a great scene this was. Red is the guy who smuggles things from outside the prison for other inmates. Andy asks him to smuggle in a rock hammer. After their brief meeting, Red's voiceover starts. Red shares his feelings about Andy. Actually, Red's voiceover drives the story throughout the movie. Red says, I could see that some men found him snobbish. His manner was different. His way of speaking, walking, it wasn't normal for this place. He walked like he was strolling through a park, carefree, unbothered, like he wore an invisible coat that protected him from this place. Yes, it's fair to say I liked Andy from the start. After these lines, I too started liking Andy. I like carefree types. I remembered Rancho from 3 Idiots, carefree and light-hearted. But Andy Dufresne stands far ahead of Rancho, and this film goes far beyond 3 Idiots. Their genres were different as well, of course. There is not a single unnecessary frame in this film, let alone a boring one. Take this scene. Andy gives the security head a tax-saving plan in exchange for beers for his friends. They all drank on the rooftop while Andy sits quietly in the corner against a wall, smiling. Red's voiceover says, you could say he did it to curry favor with the guards, or maybe to make a few friends among us inmates. But me, I think he did it so he could feel normal again, if only for a short while. That scene brought tears to my eyes. Of course, the tears of hope. In Andy, I saw a beautiful, optimistic person. Someone who refuses to let the vibrant human within him die, even in the worst conditions. Or maybe that person inside him just cannot die. Yes, जिंदगी प्यार का गीत है. इसे हर दिल को गाना पड़ेगा. Even though the whole film is political, some scenes and dialogues clearly expose the system. Like when Andy suggests the prison warden should request government funding for a library. The warden says the government only funds three things: more walls, more bars, and more guards. That one line exposes the whole system. No time wasted. Brilliant. After seeing the prison life, one prays to never end up in jail. But then there is Brooks, a man who has spent 50 years behind bars. When he finally gets parole, he does not want to leave. The outside world feels alien to him. He cannot adjust, and eventually he takes his own life. These are some of the most powerful moments in the film. Before leaving, Brooks sets his pet crow, whose name was Jake, free out of the window. In these moments, Red's narration and then Brooks's own words go straight to the heart. These dialogues play a very important role in the story. Red says to his friends, he has been here for 50 years. Haywood, 50 years. This is his whole world. In here, he is somebody. He is educated. But out there, he is nothing. Just a tired old man with arthritis in both hands. Out there, he might not even qualify for a library card. You see what I'm saying? One friend replies, I think you are full of cramp. Red says, believe what you want, Floyd. But I'm telling you the truth. These walls are funny. First you hate them. Then you get used to them. After enough time, you start to depend on them. Another friend says, crap, I would never be like that. Another says, oh, really? Try being here as long as Brooks was. Red continues, they send you here for life, and that's exactly what they take. Or at least the part of life that really matters. Brooks's voiceover helps us feel not just his own situation, but of every man who is released after 50 years behind bars. Now listen to Brooks's voiceover. My dear friends, I can't believe how fast the world has changed. When I was young, I saw a car once. Now there are cars everywhere. It's like the world is in a hurry to live. Sometimes after work, I go to the park to feed birds. I often think Jake might come back and say hello, but he never does. I hope he's okay, wherever he is, and making new friends. I can't sleep at night. I have bad dreams, like I'm falling. I wake up in fear. Sometimes I forget where I am. I think maybe I should rob a store, so they will send me home. Maybe shoot the manager too, as a bonus. But then I think I'm too old for that nonsense. I don't like it here. Living in fear all the time is exhausting. I've decided not to stay. I don't think anyone will care. Who cares if an old man like me dies? What more can one say after that? You will cry watching this scene. Up till this point, I was feeling hopeless and heavy-hearted. But then comes a scene, something finally positive. I won't describe it in detail, but listen to this conversation between Andy and Red. Andy, music is in my mind, in my heart. That's the beauty of music. No one can take it from you. Haven't you ever felt that about music? Red, I used to play harmonica when I was young, but I lost interest. What use is music here? Andy, this is exactly where it is needed the most. You need it to remind you. Red, remind you? Remind you of what? Andy, that there are places in this world that are not made of stone. That there is something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch. That's yours alone. Red, what are you talking about? Andy, hope. Red, my friend, let me tell you something. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. It has no place in a prison. Better you understand that now. Andy, like Brooks did. Wow, wow, wow. Then came my favorite moment, a scene where Andy and Red are talking in the library. Andy tells Red how he's legally laundering the warden's dirty money. And then Andy says something brilliant. I was straight as an arrow outside. It took prison to make me a crook. And Red bursts into laughter. Amazing. Very rarely does a film scene take you into your own imagination. But in this film, one such moment exists. After spending 2 months in solitary, Andy is out. He and Red sit by a wall, talking to each other. Andy says he wants to live on an island in Mexico called Zihuatanejo. It's on the Pacific Ocean. Andy says, you know what Mexicans say about the Pacific? They say it has no memory. I want to live the rest of my life in a warm place with no memory. I will build a small hotel by the beach, buy an old boat and fix it up, take my guests out fishing. Watching Andy's face while he says this, I felt like I was already living that life. What a performance. What a film. Andy then asks Red to come with him once he's out. Red replies that, like Brooks, he too will not be able to survive outside. Then comes Andy's iconic line, get busy living or get busy dying. That's the essence of the film. Yes, जिंदगी प्यार का गीत है, इसे हर दिल को गाना पड़ेगा. This film also shows how prison life creates specific psychological patterns in some people, patterns that turn them into behaving like slaves. After release, Red works at a store. The slavery inside him from 40 years of prison is so ingrained that he asks permission every time he wants to use the toilet. The manager calls him and says, "You don't have to ask me every time." Then Red's voiceover comes in. 40 years I have been peeing with permission. I can't squeeze a drop without it anymore. At this point, Red is thinking about going back to jail. He says in voiceover, "Living in fear is a terrible thing." Brooks knew that. He knew it well. "I just want to go back to a place where the world makes sense to me, where I'm not afraid all the time. But one thing stops me, the promise I made to Andy." Then he goes to the place Andy had told him about. He finds some money and a letter. Andy writes, "Red, remember the thing I told you? Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies." For the first time, Red challenges his slave mentality. He decides to go meet Andy in Zihuatanejo. Before leaving, he returns to his room. Right at the place where Brooks, just before committing suicide, had written, "Brooks was here." Red writes, "So was Red." In this way, Red, who represented the fearful, slave-like mindset, rebels. His decisions and those words on the wall could inspire even the most cowardly person to be brave. Hats off. I had developed deep hatred for the warden and the security chief, and then came the most satisfying catharsis for me at the end. I loved it. When the police arrest Headley, Red's voiceover says, "I wasn't there, but I heard that when they were taking Headley away, he was crying like a little girl." Similarly, when they come to arrest Norton, he shoots himself. Red's voiceover says, "I think the last thing that went through Norton's mind, other than that bullet, was how in the hell Andy Dufresne ever got the best of him." Did you enjoy it? But think about it. It wasn't just their humiliation. It exposed the reality of these so-called tough bad boys. How truly cowardly and weak they really are. The film begins with a man sitting in a car outside a house at night, drinking alcohol with a revolver in his hand. In the next scene, he is standing in court. The court sentences him to 2 life terms. He is accused of murdering his wife and her lover. This man's name is Andy Dufresne. Andy is the protagonist of this film. Andy claims he did not commit the murder, but all the evidence goes against him. Anyway, he is sent to a prison called Shawshank. And so begins Andy's prison life. There is so much in this film that even briefly talking about it would take a lot of time, let alone going into detail, and that would ruin the magic of the film. This film is an experience of prison life. Every scene of prison life is extraordinary and carries many layers. I have already discussed a few scenes in my raw experiences. For a month, Andy does not talk to anyone in prison. Then one day he talks to Red. Red is someone who smuggles things from outside into the prison for the inmates. Andy takes Red for a hammer. Red asks what he will do with the hammer. He thinks Andy might be planning to kill someone because a prisoner named Boggs is after Andy and wants to rape him. Andy says if Boggs tries to do anything to him, he will not use the hammer for his safety. Then Red asks if he is thinking of using the hammer to dig a tunnel and escape. Andy laughs. Later, when the hammer gets smuggled to Red, he laughs looking at the tiny hammer and says to himself, "Now I understand my joke. Digging a tunnel with this would take 600 years." This is how Red and Andy's friendship begins. Actually, on Andy's first night in jail, Red had bet he would cry, but Andy did not. Anyway, later on, their friendship becomes one of the most important elements of the film. And then the feared thing happens. Boggs, along with 2 other prisoners, rapes Andy. After the first time, Boggs keeps trying to rape him repeatedly. Sometimes he succeeds, sometimes not. But now, this becomes a routine. One day, renovation work starts on the roof of the prison's license plate factory. They need about 10-12 men for this outdoor job. Red talks to a prison officer and gets Andy's and his friends' names included on the work list. While they're working on the roof, the security head, whose name is Headley, is talking about his younger brother with other officers. Headley's brother, who used to work in the oil business, has died and left behind $1 million. Out of this, Headley is supposed to get $35,000, but he's frustrated because taxes will eat most of it up. He says he will barely be able to buy a car with that, and even that will require expensive maintenance. Andy, working nearby, hears this. He leaves his work and walks over to Headley and asks, "Mr. Headley, do you trust your wife?" Headley angrily approaches him and swears at him. Andy says, "I meant, do you trust your wife not to cheat you?" Upon hearing this, Headley drags Andy and threatens to throw him off the roof. Andy quickly says, "Because if you trust your wife, then you can get the full $35,000. Headley stops and Andy explains the whole scheme of how he can legally get the money with his wife's help without paying taxes. Andy says he will prepare all the paperwork for him, and in return, he just wants 3 bottles of beer for each of the workers. Later, while the other prisoners are watching a film inside the prison, Andy goes outside. Boggs again tries to rape him. This time, Andy does something that infuriates Boggs so much that he beats Andy badly. What Andy does, you will have to watch the whole film to see. Anyway, Boggs beats him so badly that Andy ends up hospitalized and Boggs is thrown into solitary confinement. After a month, when Boggs comes out, security head Headley enters his cell and beats him so badly that Boggs is hospitalized, becomes paralyzed, and can't eat on his own. He lives the rest of his life like this. So now, Andy is permanently safe from Boggs. Andy is then transferred from laundry duty to work as an assistant in the prison library. Other officers also start coming to him for tax-related help, and he assists them legally and illegally. After that, 2 events happen in the film that are very important, but I will not talk much about them. You should see them for yourself. They are very important and engaging. One is that an old prisoner named Brooks commits suicide. The second is that the government agrees to fund the prison library. The prison warden exploits this situation. He invites the press and starts getting contracts using the new library as a front. Massive corruption begins. Andy helps the warden legalize this corruption. Then a young prisoner named Tommy William arrives in the Shawshank. He gets along well with Andy, and Andy starts tutoring him. One day, Tommy tells Andy that in another prison, he had met a man who had killed a banker's wife and her lover, the same crime Andy was accused of. Andy tells the prison warden about this. The warden refuses to help. Instead, he throws Andy into solitary confinement for a month and gets Tommy killed, saying he was trying to escape. After coming out of solitary, Andy does something no one could imagine. Since I had already seen the film, I knew what was coming. But for someone watching it for the first time, it will be totally unexpected. Andy escapes from prison. Once outside, he reveals the warden's corruption and the murders inside the prison to the press. The police arrest security head Headley, and the warden Norton shoots himself. Red also gets paroled and is released from prison. Eventually, Red meets Andy in Zihuatanejo. Story ends. If anyone wants to learn filmmaking, they should watch this film over and over again. This is a perfect film. What more can I say about its craft? I'll just share a few scenes and the craftsmanship within them. In an early scene, the new prisoners are stripped naked, bathed, and then white powder is thrown on them before sending them to their cells. Here, Red gives a voiceover. The first night in the prison is the toughest. Like the day you are born, you are marched in naked. That white powder they throw on you burns your skin, stings your eyes, and when they finally slam that cell door shut, that's when you know it's rare. Your whole old life disappears in a second, and the only thing left is time. Nothing but time to think about everything. These powerful lines and Morgan Freeman's voice, rich with depth, give you the complete feel of prison life within seconds. Now take another scene. Boggs, with his gang, tries to rape Andy for the first time, and Andy resists. Here, Red's voiceover comes in. I wish I could tell you Andy fought the good fight, and the sisters let him be. I wish I could tell you that, but prison is no fairy tale world. He never told anyone who did it, but we all knew. For a while, that's how it went with Andy. Life in prison is routine, and then more routine. Every few days, new bruises would show up on Andy's face. The sisters stayed on him. Sometimes he got away, sometimes not. That's just how it was. That was Andy's routine. These lines show us what happens to the people like Andy in jail, the helpless and tortured life of a vulnerable man. While this voiceover is playing, the cinematography is brilliant, especially when snow is falling and Andy walks through it with bruises on his face. You truly feel Andy's desperate situation. And man, those moments from Brooks deciding to commit suicide to the moment he actually does, absolutely brilliant. Just Brooks's voiceover, soft background music, brilliant cinematography, and you are completely immersed in the film. Yes, it was that simple, yet incredibly powerful. Actually, the plot and acting in this film are so powerful that it feels like the work of cinematography, background music, and editing must have been easy, as if they did not have to work too hard. That's why all of these elements were used in a very subtle way throughout the film. But remember, anything that looks simple is actually the result of very complex hard work. So the conclusion is, if every scene touches your heart, it means all departments of the film have done their job excellently. The plot is made so engaging that Andy's escape does not need high-volume suspenseful music or showing him dodging the police like a hero. Just a simple casual chat between Andy's friends builds so much suspense that everything that happens afterwards keeps you hooked. Now see it yourself. When the next morning comes and the police tell all prisoners to come out of their cells and no one comes out from Andy's cell, they go in to check. Red stands nearby, anxious and waiting. The police see there is no one inside. This is where the filmmaking hits its peak. Until this moment, no one could have imagined that someone like Andy could escape from the prison. Actually, everyone was thinking something else entirely. What they were thinking, I will not say. Watching it is more fun, believe me. These are the moments to watch. The cinematography in these scenes is outstanding. The way Andy's escape plan is revealed afterward is so enjoyable. What incredible storytelling. In this movie, even the tiniest detail plays a role. Some details seem very small but actually have a major impact, like the famous actress's poster in Andy's cell. At first, when the poster is mentioned, it seems like it's just for entertainment, but at the end of the film, it becomes a decisive element. Behind the poster, Andy had dug a tunnel. When Norton tears the poster, his hand goes through the area near the actress's vagina. In the next frame, Andy is shown emerging from a sewage tunnel on the other side. This symbolizes a new world. Wow! If you want to learn filmmaking, watch this film over and over. This movie has so many layers that if I touched on them all, this review would be an hour long. On top of that, it would spoil the film's magic. So consider that in this review, I have only scratched the surface. I have skipped many important and fascinating elements, like Norton's religious plot and its connected philosophical and comic aspects. For example, the recurring line in the film, "Salvation lies within," etc. I will end up with the same thing which Red said about Andy. Some birds are not meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. And of course, जिंदगी प्यार का गीत है, इसे हर दिल को गाना पड़ेगा.